Welcome to Hidden Ties, where every story hides a deeper truth. I couldn't believe it. After years of hearing my brother make fun of my failed business ventures, I finally had the last laugh. The moment he sneered, "This cruise is for successful people, no failures allowed," I smiled to myself. You see, it wasn't just a cruise, but my moment to show him that my failures didn't define me. But then, as we boarded the yacht, the captain's voice echoed, "Welcome aboard your yacht, Ms. Parker." My brother's face, pure shock. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I'd love to know. My name is Denise Parker, and I'm 51 years old. Life hasn't been kind to me, but it hasn't broken me either. I live in a small, somewhat run-down house in the suburbs of Baltimore, a far cry from the glittering high-rise apartments that my younger brother Adam owns. You see, Adam's always been the successful one, the type who never had to face rejection, who wore designer suits and rubbed shoulders with CEOs. Meanwhile, I was running a failing startup that never quite made it off the ground. My dreams of becoming a successful entrepreneur were drowned in bills and unpaid loans. But just because I stumbled doesn't mean I stayed down. Over the years, I've had my moments of self-doubt, but they never lasted long. I was determined to turn things around. Adam never failed to remind me of my missteps. He'd show up at family gatherings, casually drop some comment like, "I can't believe you're still working on that startup. You should try something that actually works." It stung, but I kept my mouth shut, trying to play it cool. Every time, though, that little comment, delivered with his trademark smirk, felt like a dagger. But this time I was ready to turn the tables. The cruise was his idea. Adam had invited me on this luxury trip, boasting about the guests that would be there, the millionaires, the entrepreneurs, the successful people. I didn't think twice about accepting the invitation. I knew it was a chance for me to make my move. He was so certain that I was a failure, that he thought I'd never amount to anything. This would be my moment to remind him that life isn't just about wealth, it's about grit, and I had plenty of that. It all started when we boarded the yacht. The crew, sharply dressed, greeted us with wide smiles and flutes of champagne. I took it all in, savoring the beauty of the boat, the vast ocean stretching out before us. But as we walked toward the main deck, something unexpected happened. The captain, a tall man with salt and pepper hair, stepped forward. "Welcome aboard, Miss Parker," he said, extending his hand to me. I froze. Miss Parker? I looked around. The captain wasn't looking at Adam. He was looking right at me. Adam's jaw dropped, and for a moment, everything went quiet. "Wait," Adam said, his voice a mix of confusion and disbelief. Did you just call her?" The captain, as composed as ever, nodded. "Yes, Mr. Parker. Ms. Denise Parker. Welcome aboard your yacht." I turned back to Adam, his face a mix of shock and something else. Pride? Jealousy? Maybe both. This was it. My moment. The last laugh. "Looks like someone underestimated me," I said with a smirk, watching his face twist into an unreadable expression. The moment we stepped onto the yacht, everything felt different. Adam's usual swagger was replaced by a tight-lipped silence, as if he was grappling with the realization that he'd been wrong about me all along. The crew continued to usher us inside, but his eyes never left me, like he was trying to make sense of how I, of all people, could be the guest of honor. I'd known about the yacht. It wasn't just some run-of-the-mill cruise. This was a high-end private luxury vessel, a yacht that catered to people who had made it big. Only the wealthy, the successful, the ones who could afford such indulgence, ever stepped foot on it. Adam had known all about it. It was part of his world, not mine. Yet here I was, walking through the main deck like I belonged. The elegant marble floors gleamed under soft lights, and the air was filled with the faint scent of expensive perfume and ocean breeze. The staff treated me like royalty, like they knew exactly who I was. Adam, on the other hand, he was clinging to the edge like a fish out of water. He stuck to me like glue, trying to figure out what was going on. "You didn't answer my question," Adam muttered as we made our way into the grand dining room, where a lavish spread was laid out before us. The way he said it, his voice tight, his fingers tapping nervously on the back of his chair, was enough to let me know he was rattled. "I don't know what you mean," I replied, sitting down at the head of the table, enjoying the feeling of power that was slowly creeping into my bones. It was thrilling, yet surreal. "The captain called you Ms. Parker," he said, almost accusingly, though it was clear that he was still processing everything. "Why would he—" "Because I'm the one who owns this yacht," I cut him off with a smile, not wanting to reveal the full story just yet. The truth? I'd sold my startup a few months ago. It wasn't a huge success, but it was enough to secure some financial freedom. And I'd invested that money into something even bigger, a new company that was thriving. It wasn't the flashy success that Adam thought he knew, but it was mine, and that's all that mattered. Adam blinked, looking like I'd slapped him in the face. His gaze shifted from me to the crew who were waiting for us to start the meal. His fingers, still drumming against the chair, stilled for a moment as he seemed to take in the grandeur around us, processing the reality of what I'd just said. "Wait," he said, shaking his head as if trying to push the thought away. "You really own this?" His eyes narrowed, suspicion creeping into his voice. "I don't buy it. What's your angle?" I leaned back in my chair, studying him. "What do you mean, my angle?" I asked. "Are you saying I'm lying?" He blinked again, looking a bit disoriented. "I'm saying I just don't get it," he muttered, his voice full of doubt. "You've always been, I don't know, the underdog, the person who never quite—" He stopped himself, clearly realizing that he was treading dangerous waters. "Never mind, it's not like it matters." "Oh, but it does," I said, my voice firm but calm, enjoying the moment of power. "It matters more than you realize. Because while you've been busy judging my every move, I've been building something that actually lasts." I leaned forward, locking eyes with him. "And now, I'm finally living the life you always said I'd never have." The rest of the meal was a blur, an awkward dance where Adam tried to hide his jealousy and discomfort. He'd always been the picture of confidence in public, but now he was a different person, small, unsure, even a little afraid. After dinner, we retreated to the deck, the sea stretching out endlessly in front of us. The wind was cool against my face, and the yacht sailed smoothly, like it had no care in the world. Adam stood next to me, his hands jammed in his pockets, staring out at the horizon. "I don't get it," he said again, this time quieter, as if trying to make sense of it all. "How did you do it?" I looked over at him, wondering if he was finally seeing me for who I was. Not the failure he'd always believed me to be, but someone who had fought to carve out a place for herself. Someone who refused to be defined by her mistakes. "It wasn't easy," I said after a moment. "But nothing worth having is. I spent years falling, picking myself up, learning from my failures. You only see the end result, Adam. You don't see the years of hard work, the nights I stayed up crying, the sacrifices I made." I paused, watching him carefully. "But you'll never get it, will you? You've always been lucky. I had to work for every inch I've gained." He didn't respond right away. He just stared at the ocean, his face a mix of frustration and admiration. "I guess I didn't think you were capable of it," he admitted finally, his voice barely above a whisper. I smiled. "That's the thing about people like you. You always assume that anyone who's not living your version of success is a failure. But you're wrong, Adam. Success isn't just about money or status. It's about finding peace with yourself, knowing you did your best, and never quitting." The silence stretched between us, but this time it wasn't uncomfortable. For once, we were just two people, standing side by side, the wind playing with our hair as the boat sailed into the night. The next day dawned bright and clear, with the soft hum of the yacht's engines beneath our feet. The sun reflected off the water like a mirror, and the sky was a brilliant blue, stretching out as far as the eye could see. Everything felt perfect. Too perfect. I had thought that maybe, just maybe, Adam would finally ease up. Maybe he'd be proud of me. Maybe he'd even accept me as more than the sister who couldn't get things right. But of course I was wrong. It wasn't in his nature. Adam was the kind of person who couldn't bear to share the spotlight. He had been the center of attention for so long, he couldn't imagine a world where someone else wasn't in the shadows. That morning, as we sat down for breakfast in the luxurious dining room, I could sense a change in the air. Adam was still polite, still cordial, but there was an underlying tension. The way he poured his coffee, the way he avoided looking me in the eyes for too long. It felt like he was simmering, and I could tell that something was coming. I'd seen this look on his face before, when things weren't going his way and he was desperate to regain control. "So, Ms. Parker," Adam started, his tone too casual, too pointed, "how does it feel to finally be, one of the successful people?" He made air quotes, his expression tight with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I mean, it must be a relief, huh? To finally be recognized for your achievements." His voice dripped with sarcasm, but I could hear the slight edge of real discomfort under it. He was trying to cover it up, trying to make it seem like it was all just a joke. "Nice try, Adam," I said, picking up my glass of juice. "But we both know this isn't about recognition. It's about respect, something I've earned over time." I met his gaze, not backing down. "You can keep pretending you don't care, but I can see it. You don't like that I've done something you didn't expect." He slammed his cup down onto the table, too hard, making the plates rattle. The tension that had been building all morning finally boiled over. "You think you're better than me now, don't you?" he hissed. "You think that because you somehow scraped by with a little bit of money, you're in my league now?" The other guests at the table quieted immediately. I could feel their eyes on us, but I didn't flinch. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. I could see it in his eyes now. The raw jealousy, the insecurity, it was all there, and I had no intention of letting him back out of it. "Adam," I said, my voice low but steady, "I don't think I'm better than you. I think I'm better than the version of me you've been holding on to for years. The version you keep telling yourself is a failure. You can call it luck, you can belittle it all you want, but you know deep down that I did the work, that I didn't quit." His face flushed red. "You don't get it, do you? You never will." He stood up suddenly, his chair scraping loudly against the marble floor. His hands were balled into fists, but he was shaking, like he was fighting to hold back the anger he couldn't control. This yacht, this whole damn thing, it's a game, Denise. A game to you, but to people like me, it's a reality. You think this will fix everything? You think this will erase all the years you spent failing?" I didn't stand up, didn't raise my voice, but I could feel the heat of the moment, the storm rolling through the air between us. I met his gaze, my eyes unwavering. "You can keep playing your games, Adam. But the truth is, I've learned that life isn't about winning games. It's about being true to yourself, doing what you love, and not letting people like you tell me I can't." The words hung in the air, thick with meaning. The other passengers at the table remained silent, their eyes darting between us, as if unsure whether to intervene or just let us go at it. Adam stood there, his chest heaving, his face red, and I knew he was trying to figure out if he should apologize or keep pushing. I could see the internal battle on his face, but his pride won out. Without another word, he stormed off, leaving the table in complete silence. I could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on me, but I didn't care. It was his loss, not mine. I stood up slowly, excusing myself from the table, and made my way out to the deck. The sun was beginning to dip lower in the sky, casting an orange glow over the water, and I took a deep breath, feeling the cool wind ruffle my hair. The tension of the morning had drained away, leaving only a sense of quiet victory. But I knew something was coming. Adam's pride wouldn't let him be humiliated for long. He would retaliate. And this time, I wasn't sure how far he was willing to go to prove that he was still the alpha. But one thing was certain. this wasn't over. The rest of the day unfolded with a strange kind of tension in the air, a quiet hum that seemed to vibrate through every conversation, every glance, every moment spent on the yacht. Adam kept his distance from me, as if pretending I didn't exist, while I steeled myself against whatever he might throw my way. He'd always been unpredictable when it came to his pride. I knew that it wasn't just about the yacht or the money. It was about power, about control, and he would stop at nothing to remind me that no matter what, he was still better than me. It was the evening when everything came to a head. We were docked at a private island for a fancy, exclusive dinner, something Adam had told me I wasn't allowed to miss, though I knew he had other motives. The guests were all well dressed in their evening best, and the yacht's crew had set up a lavish banquet outdoors with chandeliers hanging above, casting soft light on the table settings. It was almost like a scene from a movie, perfectly curated, but everything felt empty. As I walked in, I noticed Adam talking to a couple of important-looking people, a businessman and his wife, who had been laughing with him the night before. The moment he saw me, I caught the faintest flicker of something in his eyes. Maybe anger, maybe embarrassment, but he quickly masked it with a smile, an expression that didn't quite match the situation. "Denise!" He greeted me too brightly, a little too loudly. "Glad you could join us. You look, well, spectacular tonight." His words felt like knives wrapped in velvet. I didn't answer right away, just raised an eyebrow. His insincerity was almost palpable, but I knew he wanted me to play along, to be the good sister, the one who would ignore the tension from earlier. And I almost did, almost took the bait and smiled back. But something inside me snapped. "No thanks to you," I said, and the words felt good coming out of my mouth. "You're really trying, aren't you?" His jaw tightened, but he didn't snap back. He just gave me a strained smile and waved me toward the table. "I guess we're all just here to enjoy the night," he muttered, ushering me to the seat across from him. "And leave the drama behind, right?" I sat, though my stomach churned with an uneasy feeling. I had learned over the years that when Adam acted like this, when he pretended everything was fine, it meant something was brewing under the surface. He wasn't a person who could let things go, not when he felt like his position was being threatened. Dinner was a blur. Everyone laughed, talked about business, about travel, about their latest projects, but I could sense the coldness from Adam beneath every surface-level interaction. He kept making subtle jabs, always under his breath, always when the others weren't looking. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about him proving that he could still control the narrative, still have the upper hand. Then came the moment that changed everything. After dessert, Adam stood up abruptly, clinking his glass with a knife to get everyone's attention. He looked around the table, his eyes gleaming with an unfamiliar energy, one I hadn't seen in him before. The room quieted instantly, and all eyes were on him. "I'd like to make a toast," Adam said, a smug smile creeping onto his face. "To success, to people who make it, and to those who think they can." I felt my stomach drop. I knew what was coming. "Denise," Adam said, his voice dripping with feigned sweetness. "You've had your moment, but let's be real here. No one really believes your success is legitimate. A quick cash out doesn't make you successful. You don't build an empire in a few months. You don't get to ride on a yacht just because you got lucky once." The room went still. The other guests, who had been laughing just moments ago, suddenly seemed unsure of what to do. The tension was thick, and I could feel their eyes shift between Adam and me, waiting for something, waiting for me to respond. I took a deep breath, the sting of his words cutting through the facade of calm I'd been holding on to. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was trying to undermine me in front of everyone, to paint me as some kind of fraud, but I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I stood up slowly, making sure my movements were deliberate, controlled. "You're wrong, Adam," I said, my voice clear and steady. "I didn't get lucky. I worked for everything I have, and you can try to belittle it all you want, but that's not going to change the truth." I took a step forward, my gaze never leaving his. You're just mad because for once, I've managed to do something you can't." His smile faltered for a moment, and I could see the fury building behind his eyes. But it wasn't just anger, it was fear. Fear that I had finally reached a place where I didn't need his validation anymore. "You think I care what you have to say?" Adam's voice trembled with barely contained rage. "You're nothing, Denise. Nothing compared to me." The words stung, but I refused to let them land. I refused to be the victim in this scenario. "No, Adam, you're the one who's nothing without me," I shot back. "You're nothing without someone to look down on, without someone to control, but that's not me anymore." For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. The room was silent, the weight of what I'd said sinking in. Adam's face went red, his fists clenching at his sides as if he were going to strike me, but instead he just laughed, a bitter, hollow laugh. "You really think you've won, don't you?" he spat, his voice sharp with venom. "You haven't won anything, I'll make sure of that." And with that, he stormed off, leaving the dinner table in a stunned silence. I stayed standing, my heart pounding, but a strange sense of clarity washed over me. Adam had made one fatal mistake. He underestimated me again, and now he was about to pay the price for it. The night seemed to stretch on forever, the air thick with the tension that Adam had left behind. It wasn't just the aftermath of our confrontation, it was the quiet anticipation of what was to come next. I could feel his anger, his humiliation, hanging in the air like an unspoken promise that something would break. And I knew, deep down, that I hadn't heard the last of him yet. He wasn't the kind of person to just let things go. No, he was the kind of person who would dig in, get more vicious, and strike when you least expected it. But I didn't care anymore. I'd made my point. He couldn't control me, not anymore. And for the first time in years, I was beginning to realize something that should have been obvious from the start. The only person who could truly hold me back was myself. The following morning was peaceful, too peaceful. I woke up early, the sun barely up, and decided to take a walk on the deck. The sea was calm, the water a deep blue with hints of gold from the rising sun. The yacht was still anchored at the private island, the scent of salt water heavy in the air. I needed the space to think, to clear my head before whatever Adam had planned came crashing down. I had barely taken a few steps when I saw Adam. He was standing by the railing, staring out at the horizon, his back to me. For a moment I considered turning around, leaving him to his thoughts, but something told me I couldn't avoid this conversation forever. I walked up behind him, my footsteps soft on the deck. I didn't speak immediately, just stood there for a few moments, letting the silence stretch between us. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. "I never thought you'd do this to me," he said, his words full of bitterness. "I didn't want to fight with you, Denise. I just wanted you to see that you can't be part of this world. You don't belong here." I let out a breath, trying to keep my own emotions in check. "You don't get it, do you?" I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "This isn't about belonging. It's about respect, something I've had to earn the hard way." "You've always had a chip on your shoulder," Adam muttered, turning to face me. His eyes were wild, desperate. "You've always tried to prove something." "And what about you?" I shot back, my voice growing firmer. "You've spent your whole life trying to keep people down, trying to make yourself feel superior. But you've never seen me for who I am, Adam, and that's your problem." He took a step toward me, his fists clenched, and for a brief moment I thought he might lash out. But then, something in his face changed. The anger in his eyes softened, just for a moment, before the bitterness returned. "I never wanted to see you fail," he said quietly. "I never wanted that. But when you kept pushing, when you kept proving me wrong, I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to deal with the fact that you might actually be successful." His voice cracked a little at the end, and for a moment, I saw the little brother I had grown up with, the one who had always feared that I would overshadow him. I took a deep breath, the weight of his words pressing against me. But I wasn't about to let him off the hook. Not yet. You've been so wrapped up in your own ego, Adam, that you couldn't even see what was right in front of you. You didn't even want to acknowledge that I could be better than you in ways that matter. But I'm not here to compete with you. I'm here to show you that I've found my own path, and it's nothing like the one you've tried to trap me in." He didn't respond right away. Instead, he stared at me, his gaze full of something I couldn't quite place. Was it regret? Anger? I wasn't sure, but I could see a shift, a crack in the armor he'd built up around himself. "You've won, Denise," he said finally, his voice quieter now. "I'm not going to fight you anymore. I can't." I couldn't help the sense of relief that washed over me, though I didn't let it show. "I didn't want to win," I said, my voice softer now. "I just wanted you to stop thinking I'm weak, and to stop pretending that everything you've built was because of something more than luck." He didn't say anything after that, just turned back to the horizon, the weight of the moment hanging between us like an unspoken understanding. I wanted to say more, but I knew there was nothing left to say. We had both said our piece, and maybe, just maybe, we were both finally seeing each other for who we really were. The day passed slowly after that. Adam and I avoided each other for the most part, but the tension was different now. Not the kind that simmered with rage, but something quieter, more thoughtful. As the evening approached, the yacht set sail again, leaving the island behind. The golden glow of the setting sun painted the sky in shades of pink and orange. I stood on the deck, watching the water stretch out before me, the gentle rocking of the yacht a comforting rhythm beneath my feet. Then, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a presence behind me. I didn't need to turn around to know who it was. "I've been thinking," Adam's voice said quietly, almost hesitantly. Maybe you were right. I've been so focused on my own crap, I couldn't see that you had your own thing going on. You've always been more than just the kid who messed up." I turned to face him, and for the first time, I saw something resembling vulnerability in his eyes. It wasn't much, but it was enough to let me know that things were changing. "It's never too late to change, Adam," I said, my voice gentle. "But you've got to stop playing games. You've got to be honest with yourself about who you are and what you really want." He nodded slowly, the weight of the moment sinking in. "I know," he murmured. "I just never wanted to admit it." I smiled softly. "It's not about winning, Adam. It's about finding peace." And with that, we stood there, side by side, looking out at the ocean as the yacht sailed into the night, the world ahead of us vast and full of possibilities.